Hello, and welcome to the second video in the Creating Web Extension series. Let me first explain how this series is gonna work. In each video, we are going to create a full, useful add-on and explore how the APIs work, how each file works, and what is needed for that specific add-on. In future videos, I'm not going to revisit the same stuff that has happened in previous ones. But since this is actually the first video where we are actually programming the add-on, everything's gonna be new. Before we explore the part about coding the add-on, I want to show you the add-on working so that we know what we are going to build. So first, let's jump into Firefox and see the add-on working. We are now in Firefox, and here I have a web page loaded with something that I'm not exactly sure what it is. I want to know more about higher order functions. So I go on and highlight the term, open the contextual menu, and there is a new item at the end. Search selected text on Wikipedia. That is the add-on we are going to build today. So when you select that, a sidebar will open and execute a query on Wikipedia and bring in the content that's relevant to what we are searching. Since it's a sidebar, you can scroll the content independently, so you can go on a deep dive inside Wikipedia and then go back to your compiler text. If somehow the page that's being displayed is not the correct one, you can also use this drop down to get the other results from the search. When you're done, you can close it and keep browsing the web. I have another page here that's talking about ActivityPub could build the feature. But what is ActivityPub? Again, highlight the term, open the contextual menu, search selected text on Wikipedia, and then we get to learn that ActivityPub is an open, decentralized social networking protocol. We can learn more about it and also learn why someone thinks it's the future. This is the add-on we are going to build. So, how add-ons are built? Firefox add-ons are built using something called the WebExtensions APIs. They are common between Firefox and the Chrome-based browsers. So you can build add-ons that work on multiple browsers by just tweaking some things here and there, which we will explore in a future video. Add-ons are much like a web app. They are built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, JSON files, and static assets. So if you've ever built a web application, you surely can build add-ons as well. What we are going to do now is go over the files line by line to see how this Search the Wikipedia as a sidebar add-on actually works. All add-ons start with a manifest file. The manifest file is a JSON that contains metadata about the add-on, such as its name, descriptions, and homepage, but also it contains lots of control over the life cycle of the add-on and what resources it's requesting access from the browser. Not all add-ons have access to everything. So let's go over this manifest here. This is a manifest version 2, which is the specification that Firefox uses for manifest files. There is a manifest version 3 that I think that Chrome is trying to ship. I'm not sure it's live yet, and I don't actually care because the changes don't interest me. So you need to specify this version. This is not the version of the add-on we are building. The version for the add-on we are building is this one. So the first thing that I want to explore a bit here is that we are tackling localization from the start. There is a built-in localization API and features for web extensions, and we are already using it inside the manifest file. This add-on is localized in English and my own native language, which is Portuguese. So we set the default locale to English, and then here on the description of the add-on, we use a special key. This key follows a format, which is _MSG, then a key that you create, and _ to close it. When Firefox finds this on the manifest, it will go into a file, which is another JSON that contains the strings for each language. It's in an _locales folder, which holds each language separately. And then, for example, for the English language, there will be a messages.json. And inside here, you have the extension description. This key here matches the one used in the manifest. So it's the same extension description key. This is built into WebExtensions, so you can just leverage it instead of bringing in your own custom localization library. Since JSON don't have comment, you also have this extra stuff such as description that explains what this is all about. This is so that you can build tools to help localization, and also for volunteer translators who are looking into some string so they can get more context on what that string is all about, so it can inform them better to do the localization they are working on. Back to the manifest. We list the home page for our add-on, the icons, so we can have multiple icons, and the property key is the size of the square icon. This is 128 pixels by 128 pixels. You can have multiple entries here so that Firefox can pick the most appropriate size depending on what's happening. I just added one because even though this is a full add-on and useful add-on, I don't want to go creating multiple icon resources and stuff right now. The second item, not second item, the next item is actually the background. So a background is, it's like an autoexec.batch. And I'm probably revealing my age here because I suspect that many of you have no idea what I'm talking about. But the scripts listed here will be executed once the add-on is loaded. And when I mean loaded here, I don't mean when we select it from the contextual menu. I mean when Firefox loads the add-on in itself, either during installation time or when the browser launches. It will execute this. And this is where we are going to set that contextual menu used. So you can think of this as a script that boots your add-on, and you use it to set up the hooks you need into internal stuff of the browser. The next item is a sidebar action. This is specify what's going on with that. What's the default panel for the sidebar, which we are pointing to an HTML file. And this open at install that's set to false means that this sidebar will not instantly open when the add-on is installed. For example, I have other add-ons that I've built and I'm shipping that are purely a sidebar, such as Twitter as a sidebar. When you install that add-on, it immediately opens a sidebar and loads Twitter into it. In our case here, for this add-on, We just want the sidebar to open once you select some text and use the contextual menu. So we set this item to false. And this add-on is requesting permission to open context menus. So again, security for add-ons is quite tight. You need to request permissions for everything that you want to do. And reviewers will look into that. Ask for the permission for it in the manifest. It will be blocked to escape this. It's a security feature for web extensions. So I think that the starting point that we can analyze here is the background. So the background, as we can see here, is divided into two clear blocks. In one block, we are going to create the context menu entry, and on the other block, we are going to handle it. Our add-on could be creating multiple menu options. We are just creating one here. So we call this browser.contextmenus.create and pass an object configuring it. Most of the web extension APIs are inside this browser.something namespace. So you can see it's JavaScript in the browser, but it's not exactly the API you know and love. In this configuration object, we pass an ID for that menu entry. Since we could be creating more than one entry, they needed to have these different IDs there so that you could differentiate them on the callback. So we just have one entry here, and we gave it an ID of search Wikipedia. Then the title is localized with the built-in localization call. We call for search label, then on English language we will go for search label, which is this one, and replace with this content. If the browser was running in Portuguese, it would pick the same content but from the Portuguese file. And we specify the context in which this menu is active. We only want it to be available if there is a text selection. If there is no text selection, there is no point in showing our add-on in the contextual menu because there is nothing to search for. The next block is the one that handles it. It's very similar to an element.add-event-listener click and an event handler. We do browser.contextMenu.onClick, add listener, and then our event handler. The handler receives two parameters. How am I going to call this? One is the info that contains metadata about the event itself, and the other one is the tab in which the menu was activated, because you might have multiple tabs open. This will point at the tab where the user used the contextual menu. For this add-on, we are not using that at all. So even though we have it here, we are completely ignoring it. We use a switch case to check on which ID we are receiving. We only have a single menu item, so this is kind of overkill because it's obvious it's our item. But we are showing how you'd go if you had more menu items. The first thing we do is get the selected text, place it on a variable, and then our next step is to open the sidebar. But we are doing something different here than simply opening the sidebar. We are changing the file that the sidebar is pointing to. Instead of just being the index.html, we are passing it a hash with the search term. we can't specify something like that on the manifest. That's why we are altering it here. Once we alter it, we just open the sidebar. We are specifying the term as part of the URL that's being loaded by the sidebar, so that in that index.html and the JavaScript that it loads can fetch that from location.hash and execute the search. This is an easy way to pass data from your background to your sidebar. There are other ways, but this is a quick way because it's not a bidirectional communication. The sidebar doesn't need to send anything back. It just needs to know what it needs to search. Let's open the HTML now. It's a very boilerplatey HTML. Very simple. The important part is that it loads a JavaScript. And if we are focusing on the HTML nodes, on the add-on we can see that we have like this drop down here with the search results. This is this div. The content of the select will be filled by the JavaScript. This label that has content in Portuguese right now, the content will be replaced with localized content by the JavaScript. And we use an iframe to hold the full Wikipedia page. So this is mostly a skeleton to be filled by the JavaScript inside the app.js file. Let's check that file. The app.js file is wrapped in like there is a wrapping main function here, which is as a synchronous function, mostly because I wanted to use await calls inside, not calls, await expressions inside the body of this add-on. If I was using normal promises by chaining then calls, I wouldn't need this. So it's not like I called it main. Don't go thinking like this is C programming where you need to have a main function. You don't. I just wrap it all into an asynchronous function, which I call later here. So when the sidebar opens, it will arrive here and execute this. What we do is that we get the search term from the location.hash and we take care to remove the hash character from it, because location.hash actually includes the hash. So we need to slice it. If there is a search term, then we execute a query request, a GET request to the Wikipedia API. And this is a single line wrapping it all, and we need to go over it with a bit more care. The first thing you need to know is that Wikipedia API calls are not exactly RESTful. The domain name that we're requesting information from is localized. So if you want your results to be coming from like Portuguese language, you need to query the Portuguese domain name. If you want results in English, you need to query the English domain, which means that we just place the URLs inside our localization files. As we've seen before this call here, browser.i18n from internationalization.getMessages fetches a string from messages.json. In this one, we are not only passing a key, which is API URL, but we are also passing content searching. So these will be interpolated in the API URL. To fully appreciate what's going on here, we need to go back to the localization file. As I've said, it's not exactly RESTful, you pass basically everything you need to pass in terms of parameters as query string parameters, which, to be honest, I quite like. I like working like that. It's easy, direct. And here we can see that there is a $term $, which is the value that will be interpolated. This will match the placeholder with the same name, term, and the content that will be placed inside term is $1. If you remember your bash scripting, this will be clearer, but if you don't, $1 just means the first argument passed to get messages. So if you check here, first one is term. So this will be placed inside $1, that will be placed inside term, that will end up inside term here. So it's a very convoluted way of doing string interpolation, but it's part of the API, comes with it, and just works. We don't need to code anything for it. We do have some extra self-documentation properties here, such as what that actually is, and an example of value that could end up in this $1. So basically, it's a very convoluted way to pick something that is on your JavaScript and place it inside a localized string. But once that's done, we do a fetch request, we pick the JSON, and luckily we have results from Wikipedia. As you might have noticed, we are just using vanilla JavaScript, mostly because if I was using some modern framework, we'd still be configuring Webpack. And I'd rather work faster, and vanilla JavaScript works wonder for web extensions, especially simple ones like this. We grab the select element. This search object contains the result from Wikipedia, which is a deeply nested object. Inside query, inside search info, there is a total hits property that, if you are lucky, contains a number above 0, which is how many hits you got with your search. What we do is loop all the search results, which are in the search property, and create the option values, which are the things inside this drop. Like everything here is an option. So we create the element, we set the value of the element to a localized URL. So Wikipedia returns the results with a numeric ID. There is a special localized URL, a special localized URL that you can pass this unique ID, and it will redirect to the correct article. So it looks like this. This is for the English one. So en.m wikipedia.org, current ID, and the page ID. That is this page ID placeholder. That's the first parameter passed to that function. So we are grabbing the mobile version of Wikipedia because the sidebar is always a tall rectangle, so the mobile version looks better in it. And that's how Wikipedia does it. It's not really responsive design there. You have like a domain to go for mobile. And that's how we grab the address for each search result. Like the search query you do to Wikipedia does not return URLs. It returns like titles and numbers. So when we need the URL, we interpolate it here. Then we set the inner text for the option as the title. We append that to the select. And just like most searches, the top result you get is usually the best one. So we load it. We just load the iframe with the first search result, which is just like building the options. So we pick like search 0 index, which is the first result. We get the page ID and we just interpolate it into the article URL and set the iframe to it. After that, we need to add a change event handler so that when you switch those options, we switch the iframe address. And we change that article, that label in front of the Dropbox to be a localized one. And actually, that's the whole add-on. The add-on is ready. All I have left is a PNG for the icon and a CSS for the style, so that the iframe fills the whole screen except 40 pixels to make room for that Dropbox. So let me show you how to load this add-on. I go back to Firefox. The first thing I'm gonna do is remove it because it's already loaded. So you go to About Column Debugging, and then you click this Firefox, and then you click Load Temporary Add-on. Then you select the manifest file for your newly created add-on. And then it's loaded. You can just go using it. For example, we could go back here, and suppose we don't know what HTTP is. We can search for it. And we got a really strange logo for HTTP. Has anyone seen that before? It looks like pharmaceutical logo. Odd. But that's how you load temporary add-ons. You just go to About Column Debugging, this Firefox, load temporary add-on, and you're good to go. You can change things in the add-on and then just try using it or reload it. If you make changes to the manifest or the background, you need to reload the add-on by pressing reload here. But if you're changing the JavaScript in the sidebar, since it's refreshed every time the sidebar opens, you don't need to click reload here. So this is it. We just went from nothing to a complete and useful add-on. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. I plan to make this into a regular series while also exploring other content that interests me. Also, please send me feedback. Write on the comments what you think about this video, what you think about web extensions, and what you'd like to see more. I can only improve on these videos if you give me feedback. Again, thanks a lot for watching, and I see you in the next video.